where wealth management is, I think it's in a process of transition towards mobility, towards analytics. I think, for example, with the advent of smartphones and tablets, I think clients are demanding banks to get access to their portfolios, information lie on their mobiles. So at the moment, I think the priority is not, for example, get blockchain or maybe the most advanced technology on board, but at least transition towards mobility. It's one of them. Analytics is also one area where we think companies or banks are actually focusing, where I think there's a lot of data currently available. I mean, according to statistics, only 1 to 2% of data is actually mined or kind of actually used, whereas most of the other data is lost or it's basically stored. It's never really processed. So my sense is that there is also a shift towards analytics, not only how you mine and how you exactly use it, whether you ultimately translate into some sales or some transactions on client's front, but also on the visualization. I mean, at the end of the day, client is a consumer, so they see it on the consumer front when they use a taxi hailing app or when they use the latest music streaming app. They expect something similar user experience on their wealth management services. So I think the focus is more getting the mobility and analytics right, along with the visualization. 10 years, 15 years back, the CIOs control the IT budgets. Even now, if you look at any of these CIO surveys, and when I speak to the CIOs, it still looks like the CIOs have a control, but what we have noticed is that on a business level, I think they are increasingly forcing the adoption of new software. For example, gone are those days where if you want to use some of the software, you have to get the approvals right from top CIO level. I think we have reached a level where the business can demand that maybe they can start prototyping or maybe experimenting certain technologies on a more experimental basis. And once they get a buy-in, actually, the business managers are able to influence adoption of this software, whether it is in a core location or more so in a remote locations. And I think it's more the remote locations. Let's say you're a global company and you're in Australia or you're in Singapore, and if the Singapore branch wants to use any of the softwares, actually the business managers are able to influence. So I think the bottom line is that from a CIO point of view, I think the team also needs to adopt to this. I think gone are those days where I think a CIO can have a control over the entire IT spending. Now, from an infrastructure point of view, I think there is still no change. So on a financials or on spending, I see a change, but in terms of managing the core infrastructure, I think it's still with the CIO. Whereas these bells and whistles, which I see in terms of new software, I think I can see it also at my bank. Some of the companies I cover, business managers are able to influence spending. I think gone are those days, again, regulators are seen only as regulators. Regulators also have a role to promote financial institution in their cities or in their countries. So what I see is that regulators also taking a more proactive stance, not only thinking in terms of regulating, but also trying to promote. The best example I can give is the kind of activity which we are seeing on this fintech, the partnership with the fintech startups, and also trying to promote the latest technologies. I think by doing that, I think some of these regulators are also trying to provide a level playing field against the traditional technology companies, because ultimately the technology companies want to disrupt financial services industry. And when, as a regulator, you kind of promote and you kind of support your companies, I think you're providing a better level playing field.